The newly highly anticipated Netflix series, The Crown, tells the inside story of Queen Elizabeth II's early reign, revealing the personal intrigues, romances, and political rivalries behind the greatest events that shaped the second half of the 20th century.
And Vanessa Kirby, known for her role in this year's film adaptation of Me Before You, plays the Queen's sister, Princess Margaret. Have a look.
Hello, you. So I was wondering if you had a free evening soon where we all might have dinner together. Before I go to Rhodesia.
I'm sure I do.
Thursday? Mummy's out.
I'd have to check.
Lovely.
And who's us all?
Well, you and me and Philip and I would like to bring Peter, if I may.
What, Peter?
Yes, Peter.
Oh.
What does that mean, oh?
Nothing. Oh, how nice.
And Vanessa Kirby and her fabulous accent joins us now. How are you?
Very good.
Have you seen that scene, the development of the romance between Princess Margaret and Peter?
Yeah.
Some delicious plots for you to follow here and play, because you have that budding romance that no one really knows about, and you start to, your sister picks up on it eventually. But then you also have, particularly in the first and second episode, your ailing father.
Yes.
And you get to sing in episode 2, and you're singing with him, which is quite lovely, but it's very poignant because you start to realize just how sick he is.
Yeah. Yeah, you just, and he's the only person that knows as well, which I think is really clever, because actually the family didn't know right until the very end how serious it was.
But
I mean, he didn't even know.
You but watching your face,
Yeah.
it's starting to register just his demise.
I think you subconsciously pick it up, you know, someone that close, and they were so intimately close anyway. So yeah, I think somebody, I mean, we knew, I guess they all knew he was really ill, but I don't think they really realised how quickly it would happen. It was a terrible shock.
Yeah.
And you know, especially for Elizabeth, thinking that she had another 30 years before she'd had to be queen. So the shock of that, I never really realised quite how big a deal it was for a 25-year-old.
Sure.
And Margaret, who's 25 too.
And how big a deal the royal family still is to this day. After playing one of the royals, starring in this series, do you have a better handle on, or can you explain why this fascination with the royals exists?
Yes, I've been thinking that. I mean, I think it's because they are almost the sort of one of the last establishments, or the last public personas that we don't really know anything about on a personal level. You know, I think actors nowadays, you tend to know a lot more about their lives, and they are a family which, you know, you only see the presentation and the public, and them coming out to public events. You don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and I think that's why this series has been so exciting to work on, because it's factually so specific and true to what actually happened. But Peter Morgan, who is the most incredible genius, has imagined what happens behind the doors of the palace.
That's a really interesting observation, because you're right. I think the royals are kind of like what old Hollywood, the silver screen Hollywood was, that there was still this sense of mystery, that we kind of knew these people, but we didn't. Right?
What is it like? Did you have any concerns playing a historical figure?
Well, it was, I mean, obviously there's pressure in some element, you know, some senses, but and also, you know, she's not alive anymore, so it was, I felt like there was I had a sort of duty to bring her memory back and at least try and capture the spirit. But at the beginning, you know, you do tons of research, you watch all this archive footage, and I was listening to all her favourite music, and you know, you go through the whole journey of trying to find out who she really was, besides the kind of scholarly facts about it.
Is there something kind of unexpected you found out about her, researching her?
You know, I mean, she was a party girl. She was out till 4 or 5 a.m. several nights in a row, and we kind of managed to put bits of that in. Like, there's a scene where she's doing the can-can with all her friends, and she's drinking, she's got her long cigarette holder. I had a lot of stories, a lot of naughty stories, but in fact, they came much later on, and I think it's been really amazing for me to play her as this young woman from 18 to 25 in the first season. The second season is then the 60s, and she gets kind of, you know, and I remember her being in a wheelchair, you know, sort of quite a tragic figure, sort of known alcoholic, and so playing her youth and vitality at the beginning, where she had all this potential, and then a series of events kind of extinguishes her flame, I think.
I also read that you really fell in love with the romance between Townsend and her.
Totally. Well, it's sort of the tragic love story of that century, I think, and in a way it wasn't in my sort of consciousness, and so bringing that back, we felt really privileged and proud that, you know, people will be able to remember that, because it was so tragic. They were so in love, and she waited 3 years to marry him in different countries. And then your big sister, 4 years older than you, makes the decision whether you can marry the person or not. I mean, it just doesn't happen. What other family would that happen? I mean, your parents in the past decided, but your big sister? You can see how that would affect a person, and so that was really, yeah, psychologically interesting as an actor.
I'm wondering, did the royal family have any input on this series at all? Have they seen it?
Everyone asked that question. Yeah. There was some contact with the palace that I know made. They're very aware of it, and Peter knows better than anyone, but they're very impartial. And I think they read and watch everything. It's hard to imagine Philip and Elizabeth watching Netflix in their pajamas at home on the, in bed. But they might, and there were Claire and I used to look at each other and be like, oh God, what if Elizabeth's like, my sister never said that, she never did that. But ultimately you just have to kind of let it go and just hope in some ways that, it takes itself seriously and it has integrity and it doesn't send them up or,
Well, it is a fantastic series and a fantastic cast. Vanessa Kirby, thank you for stopping by. The Crown will be available to stream on Netflix starting November 4th.
Thanks, guys.